Clara Bennett loved her job as a nurse at Pine Ridge Hospital, though it wasn't easy. The small-town facility struggled with outdated equipment and limited funding, but Clara poured her heart into caring for patients. She believed everyone deserved quality care, no matter where they lived or how much money they had. One sunny afternoon, an ambulance rushed in with a man injured in a horse-riding accident. Covered in dust and wearing worn-out boots, he looked like a typical cowboy passing through town. Clara quickly assessed his condition, a broken leg and minor cuts, but noticed something unusual about him. Despite his rugged appearance, there was a quiet confidence in his eyes that didn't quite match his rancher persona. "This is Ethan," the paramedic said briefly before rushing off. Clara nodded, focusing on stabilizing him. As she cleaned his wounds and prepared him for x-rays, Ethan remained silent, observing her with a thoughtful expression. "You're lucky," she told him gently. "Could have been worse." "Thanks to you," he replied, his voice calm but warm. Over the next few days, Ethan became a regular part of Clara's routine. She checked on him often, ensuring his recovery was on track. Though he rarely spoke about himself, he listened intently whenever she talked about her work, her frustrations with the hospital's lack of resources, and her dreams of making a difference. Little did Clara know, Ethan wasn't just another patient. Beneath his cowboy hat and dusty clothes lay a secret. He was Ethan Calloway, a billionaire known for building hospitals across the country. But here in Pine Ridge, he wanted nothing more than to disappear, tired of the pressures and superficiality of his wealthy world. For now, he kept his identity hidden, content to simply watch Clara move through her day with grace and determination. What started as admiration soon grew into something deeper, as if fate had brought them together for a reason neither could yet understand. As the days passed, Clara and Ethan grew closer. Their interactions were simple but meaningful, small exchanges that revealed glimpses of who they truly were. Each morning, Clara would enter Ethan's room with a smile, carrying fresh bandages and updates on his progress. "How's the leg feeling today?" she'd ask, her tone warm and professional. "Better, thanks to you," Ethan would reply, his voice tinged with gratitude. He admired how effortlessly she balanced kindness and efficiency, treating him not as just another patient but as a person. Her dedication inspired him, reminding him why he had once been passionate about building hospitals, to help people like her make a difference. In return, Ethan listened intently whenever Clara spoke about her life. She told him about growing up in Pine Ridge, her parents' struggles to make ends meet, and her decision to become a nurse despite the challenges. "This hospital means everything to this town," she explained one afternoon while changing his bandages. "But it's falling apart. We don't have enough supplies, and the equipment is ancient. Still, we do what we can." Her passion moved him deeply. Here was someone fighting tirelessly for others, even when resources were scarce. It made him question his own recent choices, leaving behind his responsibilities to escape the pressures of wealth. Was running away really the answer? Clara, meanwhile, found herself intrigued by Ethan's quiet demeanor. He rarely talked about himself, deflecting questions with polite smiles or vague comments about ranch work. But there was something about him, a sense of wisdom and thoughtfulness, that hinted at a deeper story. One evening, as she adjusted his pillows, she decided to press a little further. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked casually. Ethan hesitated, caught off guard by the directness of her question. "No, I'm not," he admitted after a pause. "Just passing through." "Passing through where?" she teased lightly. "The middle of nowhere?" He chuckled, appreciating her humor. "Something like that. Sometimes you need a break from everything." His words lingered between them, hinting at a weight he carried but wasn't ready to share. Clara sensed it too, choosing not to push further for now. Despite his secrecy, their bond continued to grow. Ethan began opening up slightly, sharing stories about growing up on a farm and learning to ride horses as a child. Though he kept details vague, Clara noticed how his eyes lit up when he spoke about simpler times. For Clara, these moments became highlights of her day. Despite her busy schedule, she looked forward to checking on Ethan. Not just because it was her job, but because his presence brought a calmness she hadn't felt in years. And though neither of them realized it yet, their connection was becoming more than just caregiver and patient. They were two lonely souls finding solace in each other's company, unaware of the secrets and surprises that lay ahead. As Ethan's recovery progressed, Clara noticed subtle changes in him. He seemed more relaxed, less guarded, as if her kindness and the peaceful pace of Pine Ridge were slowly chipping away at whatever walls he had built around himself. One afternoon, while helping him practice walking with crutches, Clara decided to dig a little deeper. "You never talk about your family?" she said casually, steadying him as he took a step forward. "Do they know you're here?" Ethan hesitated, leaning heavily on the crutches. "Not exactly," he replied after a moment. "They think I'm traveling for business." Clara raised an eyebrow, sensing there was more to the story. "Business, huh? Must be some glamorous life out there." Ethan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "It's not as glamorous as it seems. Trust me." Her curiosity piqued, but instead of pressing further, she changed the subject. "Well, wherever you come from, I hope you're enjoying your stay here, even if part of it involves being stuck in bed." "I am," Ethan admitted sincerely. "This place has a way of making you slow down and appreciate things you might otherwise overlook." Clara smiled, nodding in agreement. "That's true. Life here isn't perfect, but it's real. People care about each other. Even with all the struggles, we find ways to make it work." Her words struck a chord deep within Ethan. Here was someone who understood what truly mattered, not wealth or status, but community and compassion. It reminded him of why he had started building hospitals in the first place, to give people like Clara the tools they needed to help others. Later that evening, as Clara sat beside his bed updating his chart, Ethan decided to open up a little more. "You mentioned earlier that this hospital is important to the town," he began cautiously. "What would you do if you could change one thing about it?" Clara sighed, setting the clipboard aside. "Where do I start? New equipment would be amazing. Our X-ray machine is older than I am. And better staffing so no one feels overwhelmed. But most of all, I'd love to see more programs focused on preventative care. So many people here don't get treated until it's too late because they can't afford regular checkups." Her passion ignited something in Ethan. He had spent years pouring money into projects without truly understanding the impact or connecting with the people benefiting from them. But here was Clara, living proof of what dedication and heart could achieve, even with limited resources. "What made you choose nursing?" he asked softly. She thought for a moment before answering. "My mom got sick when I was young. The nurses at our local clinic treated her like family, even though we couldn't pay much. They showed me that healthcare isn't just about medicine. It's about caring for people. Ever since then, I knew I wanted to do the same." Ethan nodded, moved by her sincerity. "You're incredible. You know that?" Clara laughed, brushing off the compliment. "I'm just doing my job." "No," he insisted. "You're doing so much more than that. You remind me of why I used to believe in certain things I lost sight of over time." His tone carried a weight that caught her attention, but before she could ask what he meant, a nurse called her away to assist with another patient. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself reflecting on their conversations. Clara's determination to improve the hospital despite its challenges inspired him to confront his own doubts and fears. Why had he run away from his responsibilities? What was he afraid of? He realized now that his decision to leave hadn't been about escaping wealth. It had been about escaping failure. For years, he had poured money into projects, expecting immediate results, only to grow frustrated when progress felt slow. He had forgotten the importance of patience, humility, and trust, the very qualities Clara embodied every day. Determined to reconnect with his purpose, Ethan began asking Clara more questions about the hospital and the town. She eagerly shared stories of patients whose lives had been saved thanks to the staff's hard work, as well as her hopes for the future. Listening to her, Ethan felt a spark of hope reignite within him. Maybe he didn't have to abandon his old life entirely. Maybe he could use his resources to make a difference, not just in Pine Ridge, but in communities everywhere. And maybe, just maybe, Clara could guide him toward finding meaning again. By the time Ethan was ready to leave the hospital, their bond had grown stronger than ever. Clara still didn't know his true identity, but she sensed there was more to him than met the eye. "Promise me you'll take it easy once you're back on the ranch," she teased lightly on his last day. "I promise," he replied with a smile. "But I'll miss these talks. You've given me a lot to think about." Her cheeks flushed slightly, unsure how to respond. "Just doing my job," she repeated, though both of them knew it was more than that. As Ethan walked out of the hospital, using his crutches carefully, he glanced back at Clara one last time. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice filled with gratitude. "For what?" she asked, puzzled. "For reminding me what really matters." With that, he stepped outside, leaving Clara wondering what lay beneath his cowboy hat, and how much of an impact their brief encounter might have on both their lives. A few weeks after Ethan's discharge, life in Pine Ridge returned to its usual rhythm. Clara threw herself back into her work, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She missed their daily conversations, the way Ethan listened so intently, as if her words mattered more than anything else. Meanwhile, Ethan rented a small cabin on the outskirts of town, keeping his identity hidden while he healed and reflected on his next steps. He spent hours thinking about Clara and the hospital, realizing how much they had reignited his passion for helping others. But he also wrestled with guilt. How could he explain who he really was without losing her trust? One afternoon, as Clara sorted supplies in the storage room, a man walked into the hospital lobby. Dressed in an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase, he stood out sharply against the modest surroundings. "Excuse me," he said to the receptionist. "I'm looking for Clara Bennett." Clara emerged from the storage room, curious about the visitor. "Can I help you?" The man extended his hand with a polite smile. "Miss Bennett, my name is Daniel Hayes. I'm Mr. Calloway's assistant." "Mr. Calloway?" Clara repeated, confused. "Who's that?" Daniel's expression shifted slightly, sensing her lack of recognition. "Ethan Calloway. You treated him recently after his accident. He asked me to deliver this to you." He handed her a thick envelope, then excused himself, leaving Clara standing there bewildered. Inside the envelope was a letter written in Ethan's neat handwriting, along with several documents detailing plans for significant upgrades to Pine Ridge Hospital. As Clara read through the pages, her heart raced. According to the proposal, Ethan, now revealed as Ethan Calloway, billionaire philanthropist, was funding state-of-the-art equipment, additional staff, and new community health programs. But it wasn't just the generosity that stunned her. It was the betrayal. All those weeks she had cared for him, confided in him, believed he was simply a humble cowboy. And all along, he had been hiding the truth. Anger bubbled inside her as she stormed out of the hospital, determined to confront him. Following the address Daniel had mentioned, she drove to the cabin where Ethan was staying. When he opened the door, his face lit up with surprise, and then concern, as he saw the storm brewing in her eyes. "You lied to me," she said sharply, holding up the envelope. "This whole time, you let me think you were someone else." Ethan sighed, stepping aside to let her in. "Clara, please come inside. Let me explain." She hesitated but eventually stepped into the cozy cabin, crossing her arms tightly. "I don't understand," she began, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why didn't you tell me who you are? Did you think I wouldn't treat you the same if I knew?" "No, it wasn't like that," Ethan replied earnestly. "I came here to escape everything, to figure out who I am beyond the money and titles. When we met, I didn't want any special treatment. I wanted to be seen as normal. But you weren't normal." Clara shot back, tears welling up in her eyes. "You're Ethan Calloway, a millionaire who owns hospitals. Don't you see how much that changes things?" "It doesn't change how I feel about you," he said softly, taking a step closer. "Clara, you've changed me. Before I met you, I was lost. I had given up on making a difference because nothing seemed good enough. But watching you fight for your patients, for this town, I remembered why I started doing this work in the first place. Her anger softened slightly, though suspicion still lingered. So what now? You swoop in, save the day, and expect me to forgive you? No, he admitted. I don't expect anything. I just wanted to give back, to honor the values you showed me. If you never want to see me again, I'll respect that. But I hope you'll believe that my feelings for you are real. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Clara stared at him, trying to reconcile the cowboy she had grown to care for with the powerful man standing before her. Finally, she whispered, "Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm willing to prove it," Ethan replied, his voice steady. Not as Ethan Calloway, the millionaire, but as Ethan, the man who fell in love with you. His words caught her off guard, stirring emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel fully until now. Part of her wanted to walk away, to protect her heart from potential hurt. But another part, a deeper, quieter part, knew he was telling the truth. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Prove it." Over the following days, Ethan worked tirelessly to show Clara he meant every word. He collaborated with the hospital staff, ensuring the upgrades aligned with their needs. He attended town meetings, listening to residents' concerns and committing to long-term improvements. Most importantly, he stayed by Clara's side, proving through actions, not just words, that he valued her input and respected her dreams. Slowly but surely, Clara began to trust him again. Watching him use his wealth not for personal gain but for the greater good reminded her of why she had admired him in the first place. Beneath the title and fortune lay the same kind, thoughtful man who had shared late-night conversations with her in the hospital. By the time the renovations were complete, their bond had grown stronger than ever. Clara realized that Ethan's wealth didn't define him. It was his choices that mattered. And his choice to stand beside her, to support her vision for the hospital, spoke volumes about the kind of person he truly was. With Clara's forgiveness and trust slowly restored, Ethan threw himself into transforming Pine Ridge Hospital. He didn't just write checks. He worked alongside Clara and the staff, rolling up his sleeves to understand their challenges firsthand. The renovations began with updating outdated equipment. The ancient X-ray machine was replaced with a modern digital system, drastically improving diagnostic accuracy. New beds, monitors, and surgical tools arrived, making procedures safer and more efficient. Ethan also funded a telemedicine program, allowing patients in remote areas to consult specialists without traveling long distances. Clara watched in awe as the hospital transformed before her eyes. For years, she had dreamed of providing better care for her community. But now, those dreams were becoming reality. And it wasn't just about the physical upgrades. Ethan insisted on hiring additional nurses and support staff, easing the overwhelming workload that had burned out so many dedicated professionals like Clara. "You've done so much already," Clara said one afternoon as they walked through the newly renovated emergency room. "I can't believe this is happening." "It's not just me," Ethan replied, smiling warmly. "You're the one who inspired all of this. Without your vision, none of it would have been possible." Clara blushed, brushing off the compliment. "Still, it feels surreal, like we're finally giving this town the care it deserves." "And there's more to come," Ethan added. "We're launching a preventative health program next month. Free screenings, nutrition workshops, even fitness classes. If we catch problems early, we can save lives." Clara's eyes lit up with excitement. "That's incredible. People here are going to love it." Their collaboration extended beyond the hospital walls. Ethan encouraged Clara to share her ideas openly, treating her as an equal partner rather than just a nurse. Together, they visited local schools, teaching children about hygiene and healthy habits. They organized fundraisers to sustain the hospital's programs and ensure no one would be turned away due to cost. Through it all, their bond deepened. What started as mutual respect evolved into something stronger, a partnership built on shared values, trust, and admiration. Clara admired Ethan's humility and willingness to listen, while Ethan marveled at Clara's unwavering dedication to her patients and community. One evening, after a long day of meetings and planning sessions, they sat together on the hospital steps, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. "You've changed everything around here," Clara said softly, leaning against him. "Not just the hospital, the whole town." "I couldn't have done it without you," Ethan replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You're the heart of this place, Clara. Always have been." She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "And you're the reason I believe change was possible. Before you came along, I thought we were stuck. Now I feel like anything's achievable." Ethan nodded, gazing out at the horizon. "That's what happens when people work together, when they care enough to make a difference. We're stronger as a team." As weeks turned into months, the impact of their efforts became undeniable. Patients praised the improved services, and the staff felt reinvigorated by the renewed sense of purpose. Even the townspeople noticed the positive changes, often stopping Clara or Ethan to express their gratitude. But perhaps the most profound transformation occurred within Ethan himself. Helping Clara fulfill her dreams reignited his own passion for philanthropy, not as a distant benefactor, but as someone actively involved in creating meaningful change. He realized that wealth wasn't meant to be hoarded or used for personal gain. It was a tool to uplift others, to build bridges where gaps once existed. For Clara, working alongside Ethan reminded her why she had chosen nursing in the first place. It wasn't just about treating illnesses. It was about building connections, fostering hope, and empowering communities. And having Ethan by her side made every challenge feel surmountable. Together, they proved that true progress wasn't measured in dollars or shiny new equipment. It was measured in lives touched, burdens lifted, and futures brightened. As the hospital flourished under their care, Clara and Ethan's relationship blossomed into something neither had anticipated. What began as admiration and trust evolved into love. A quiet, steady kind of love rooted in shared values and mutual respect. One crisp autumn morning, as they strolled through the park near the hospital, Ethan turned to Clara with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if I hadn't ended up here?" he asked softly. Clara smiled, her gaze lingering on the golden leaves swirling around them. "I think about it sometimes, but then I realize it doesn't matter how we met. What matters is what we've built together." Ethan nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "You saved me, Clara. Not just when I was hurt, but afterward, when I didn't know who I was anymore. You reminded me that life isn't about running away from problems. It's about facing them head-on and finding meaning in the struggle. And you showed me that dreams can come true," Clara replied, her voice filled with emotion. "Not because of money, but because of determination and kindness. This hospital wouldn't be what it is today without you." Her words brought tears to his eyes, though he blinked them away quickly. "It's not just mine, it's ours. Everything we've done here belongs to both of us, and to this town." A few weeks later, Ethan made another decision, one that surprised even himself. He sold his penthouse in the city and moved permanently to Pine Ridge, buying a modest house just a short walk from the hospital. "I don't need all that fancy stuff anymore," he explained to Clara when she questioned his choice. "This town has given me something far more valuable. A purpose, a family, and someone I want to spend the rest of my life with." Clara blushed, touched by his sincerity. "Are you sure? This place is a far cry from your old life." "It's exactly where I'm meant to be," Ethan said firmly, taking her hand. "With you." Their lives intertwined seamlessly after that. Ethan continued supporting the hospital, ensuring its programs remained sustainable for years to come. Clara, meanwhile, took on a leadership role within the staff, mentoring younger nurses and advocating for patient-centered care. Together, they became pillars of the community, beloved not just for their contributions but for their humility and compassion. One evening, during a town celebration honoring the hospital's transformation, Clara stood beside Ethan as residents gathered to express their gratitude. Children ran around laughing, elderly couples danced to live music, and everywhere there were smiles. All thanks to the changes Ethan and Clara had spearheaded. As the mayor presented them with certificates of appreciation, Clara leaned over to whisper in Ethan's ear. "We did good, didn't we?" "The best," Ethan replied, squeezing her hand tightly. But their greatest achievement came months later, on a quiet spring day. Surrounded by close friends, family, and hospital staff, Ethan and Clara exchanged vows beneath a canopy of blooming trees. It was a simple ceremony, filled with laughter, tears, and heartfelt speeches celebrating their journey together. In his toast, one of the doctors summed it up perfectly. Clara and Ethan remind us that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the lives we touch and the love we share. They've taught us that no matter where we come from or what challenges we face, we're stronger when we stand together. Years passed, and Pine Ridge thrived like never before. The hospital became a model for rural healthcare, drawing visitors from neighboring towns and inspiring other communities to follow suit. Clara and Ethan remained at its heart, guiding it with wisdom and compassion. Through it all, they never lost sight of what truly mattered: their bond, their shared purpose, and the countless lives they had touched along the way. Because sometimes, the greatest transformations begin with a single act of kindness, with two strangers meeting under unlikely circumstances and discovering that together, they could change the world. If Clara and Ethan's story inspired you, share it with others. Let us know in the comments. How has teamwork or kindness made a difference in your life? Your stories inspire us to keep creating tales that matter.